Hi everyone, it's me Ghost Girl again, and today I'm going to be here with you for another video. And I'm sorry if you can't quite hear me and the volume's not so great. There's people nearby, so I'm having to talk quite quietly so that people don't notice me. So as you'll see from the title of this video, I'm going to be talking about witchcraft. The lighting here isn't great today because I've had to sit somewhere else that's not got as great lighting, so we're just going to have to work with what we've got. And I wasn't able to film in the house today because my mum got these workmen to work in the house, so I was planning on doing a video in the house today, but because of the circumstances I've had to film like out here. So today I'm going to be talking about witchcraft, and I'm going to talk about how I was a witch and how I discovered I was a witch, signs that I was a witch, and maybe this will help you guys figure out if you were a witch or not. So from a young age I was basically drawn to witchcraft. I didn't realise it back then because I was so young, but now that I'm slightly older and looking back, I've realised that actually this was happening from a young age. I'm quite a new witch, I'm quite new to the craft, and I've still got quite a lot that I need to discover. So I'm just going to get started with this video of how I discovered I was a witch, and yeah, let's just get to it. So basically I think, obviously I mentioned in my last video about how I see dead people, and that is one of the signs of witchcraft, but there is a difference between mediums and witches, and the difference is that mediums communicate to the dead and witches practice witchcraft. So I think it has started happening when I was round about 6 or 7. My mum started taking me to all these places on days out, like Deep Sea World and science museums and stuff like that, just standard places where you would take your kid for a day out. Then when she used to take me to the gift shops, and when I was at the gift shops I'd always want crystals. I started collecting crystals, and I'd always get my mum to buy me crystals and stuff. And then when I was a little bit older I started collecting stuff like crystals, coins, what else, bones. Wee bird bones and that. I know I'm a bit of a weirdo, but they are useful for the craft and that, the bird bones. And I started collecting feathers and leaves and flowers and stuff, and my mum used to take the boat when she seen me collecting all the feathers and the bones, and she used to chuck them out. And so I had to start hiding the feathers and the bones and stuff. Also, when I was a kid and I used to get a wobbly tooth and my baby teeth were falling out, I used to keep the baby teeth in a drawer, and I think my mum actually thought she took the baby teeth off her, and I thought she'd flung them out, but it wasn't until a few years later that I found out that she actually kept all my baby teeth in a drawer, which I'm actually very surprised about. My mum's not very sentimental like that. It's not really in her nature to be sentimental, so I was actually like very surprised when I found like all my baby teeth sitting in a wee like jewellery box in our drawer. So my family are very Christian, like they're very strict Christians, and like when I was a baby my mum took me to a church, and apparently when I was in the church I was screaming my lungs out really loud, like proper screaming and that. And the church that my mum took me to, it was like a really strict religious Christian church, and they didn't know how to deal with a screaming baby, so my mum never went back. For like most of my childhood though, I was kind of forced into, like I didn't really want to go to church, I was kind of forced into going to church. Like in primary school we used to have a church service at Easter and Christmas, and then we'd have one in the summer on the last day of term. I used to, in primary school and high school, I used to hate going to church. Hated it, I actually hated it. And then every Sunday going to church as well. And when I was about 8 or 9, I kind of just started questioning the church I went to and the beliefs, and it was like, sorry the sun's back up, it was like I didn't feel like it resonated with me, like it just didn't, like I wasn't meant to be doing this. And I started questioning like the nuns in the church and the priest, and I started questioning my mum and my gran and granddad who were even more religious than my mum. And my gran and granddad started getting like really annoyed and stuff, and what my gran used to get really angry and she used to shout at me, especially when I used to say oh my god to her. She used to like crack up. And what my granddad done is he went and got me these wee books, and it was like some of the stories that were in the Bible, but it was like written for children, and they must have been about that size and about maybe about the thickness of my hand, about half that. And they were actually really nice stories. They were like had really beautiful drawings of like Joseph and his coat of colours, and they were written in the style for like children, and I actually really enjoyed them. But when I was reading them, my granddad used to say that they were true stories and that they really happened, but like when I was reading them I never seen them as like true stories that like happened. When I read them I should just see them as like fairy tales, like a story that someone had wrote that like wasn't true. I think my favourite stories like out of that collection was Joseph and the Coat of Many Colours and Moses and the Ten Commandments. You know the story when Moses is raised as an Egyptian prince, but it turns out that he's a Jew, and then he gets vanished from Egypt for like killing a slave master that was beating up a slave, and he comes back and like is like, I want to release all the Jews, and then he releases all the Jews and they go into the desert, and then he goes up the hill and gets like the Ten Commandments and all that. Like that and Joseph of the Coat of Many Colours, they were my two favourite books out of that collection. But still, even then, like it didn't like convince me, it just made me like question it even more. And when I was a teenager, I started getting like really curious about between the ages of 12 and 14. I started becoming like really dark minded and like into like really dark stuff, like I had a weird fascination with the occult and the paranormal and the supernatural, and like I tried to like hide it from like my mum, and whenever my mum, like the subject would sometimes get like hanged up with my mum and her friends, and like whenever the subject like came up, my mum would like freak out and like go mental and stuff. I would hide that from her, and like my mum, like I did mention earlier that my mum did like try to section me, so I kind of like hide a lot of like my craft. I do practice like in secret in a way, like because my mum has tried to like hang me off as like a crazy person, like just because of all this. So I have had to hide like a lot of stuff from like my mum, like in the past, and I still do. So as I was saying, as a teenager I was interested in the occult, and I started looking at spells and looking at stuff. Like I had a keen interest, but I didn't actually start practicing witchcraft till I was about 20, and that's just because I had to hide it from my mum, and I just didn't feel comfortable like practicing, especially with the likes of somebody like my mum. So that happened, and I think the way I knew I was a witch was because one day when I was about 20, I decided to start doing a spell, because if you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know about why I left YouTube. You'll know about the Peter guy and all the creepy stuff that he was doing. Well, my first spell actually was a binding spell, and it was to stop him from hurting me and my friend. So this Peter guy was sexually harassing my pal at college, and I think he would have done the same to me, because he was saying like quite appropriate comments to me, and Peter was a guy that got done for well, he never got done. He somehow managed to get away with it, and it was like he got accused of raping like 3 women and 3 different occasions, and he got away with it like from the court, but he lost his job, and then he came to the college like try to get into a new career path to get a new job, because he wouldn't be able to do like that job ever again. But we found him out, and basically I used a binding spell to get basically so that he wouldn't have power over me and my friend anymore, and or anyone else in the college, and that we'd be free of him. And it worked, and I knew then that when that binding spell worked, that I was a witch and that I could do magic and had like magical powers. So that is basically how I know that I was a witch. I hope you guys like enjoyed this story. Now that I've talked about how I'm a witch, I'm going to talk a wee bit about like everyday life as a witch. Like, so I don't really practice spells or that like every single day. Like if I find the need to use a spell, like I will, but if there's no need to do a spell, then why do a spell just for the sake of doing spells? Like, you only do spells when you have a need for spells. I do practice divination a lot. That's a form of witchcraft. Law of attraction as well, I practice that. That's a form of magic. Also gardening, that is witchcraft in its simplest form is gardening and growing herbs and using herbs and stuff like that. So that is, I do that. Like, I've got a rosemary tree. I did have a mint tree, but my mum killed that. We've also got lavender, and we've got, or we did have aloe vera, but my mum killed that one as well. One of the things that I've learned over the years is keep my mum away from plants because she kills them all. Poor plants. And like, when you're a witch, you do learn things about nature and life and how everything's connected, and like, and how things like plants are alive, animals are alive, and should be treated with respect. And you can use, for witchcraft, you don't need to like complicate stuff like cauldrons and broomsticks and all that. Like, I've got a crystal board, and it's literally just like a bit of paper that I've like drawn on, and I've got like I call it a cauldron, but it's literally just a bowl that I've like painted symbols on. I don't have an altar. Some witches have an altar, I don't. And I don't have, some people say that to become a witch you need a familiar, but you don't. I don't have a familiar. I would like a familiar, but you need to be really advanced to be able to do a familiar. That's like, to summon your familiar, that's like really advanced stuff, which I don't think I'm ready for. Try to think what else. Potions, I've never made a potion before. I would like to make a potion. A potion is basically just herbs, salt water, or just plain water that's been, that you use, that you've put your magical energy into. I have done healing before. Like, I am a healer. That is like something that I'm able to do. I don't know if there's anything else, but if you want me to go into more detail about like witchcraft and how to do it, and different ways to perform witchcraft, then I can. It's just because this video is getting quite long now, and I don't want to like bore you guys with long lengths and like overly long videos. So I think that's going to be me talking for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like this video, please subscribe and click on that notification bell so that you'll be notified when my next video comes out. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter. I've got a Twitter account. So in October I'm going to be posting like some stuff for Halloween. Like, this Spook Fest is part of the kind of Halloween stuff, but it might go longer than Halloween. It might go into November, maybe even December, just depending on my mood. But for Halloween, my Twitter is going to be totally spookified. So if you're into all that, then do follow me on Twitter. So that's everything that I'm going to say today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and goodbye.